And now, introducing a man who celebrates Jers Day every Thursday. He's going to pump the beat up because it's GTL on GCR. Gabs are here. He is Glenn Clark.
Good morning. It is Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. He is Paul Valley. Much to do on a Thursday edition of the program before we make way for the inaugural edition of Weekend at Bookies, which is coming up this morning, 11:40 a.m. We'll be doing that. Our buddy Andrew Stetka will have his Stetson figures, and we'll get the fine lines with our buddy Brad Feinberg as well. So that's all coming up a bit later on this AM. It's all brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. Simply the Bets every other Thursday morning at 11:40. No, sorry, that's Weekend at Bookies. Simply the Bets is every Tuesday morning at 11:40 a.m. Weekend at Bookies every other Thursday morning at 11:40 a.m. I've got it all figured out, I promise. Sure, I got it. Don't worry about me.
It's more than Major League Baseball can say.
That's a good point. That is a very good point, Paul. Coming up in just a few minutes, Chance Campbell is going to join us. Of course, Ole Miss linebacker, but before that, he was at Maryland for a few years, and before that, he was at Calvert Hall. He's an Elliott City native, and he had a very nice performance out at the Combine over the weekend. He's going to hear his name called during the course of the NFL Draft. We will catch up with Chance Campbell. Also this morning, Kevin Brown is going to join us. Hi, Josh Soroka. What's going on, pal? Good to hear from you. Josh Soroka, I saw you getting married. That's awesome. Congratulations, buddy. So we will catch up with Kevin Brown. Of course, we've gotten to know Kevin the last few years, doing radio and some TV. And now he's going to be transitioning into being the primary TV play-by-play voice for the Orioles on Masson if they ever get around to playing again. But we'll talk to Kevin about his new gig. Also this morning, our buddy Rodney Elliot is going to check in, former Terps and Dunbar star, and the man they call Noodles. Now he's going to be joining me this Sunday. Speaking of the FanDuel Sportsbook, we'll be in the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel from 3 to 7 on Sunday for the Big Ten title game and for the selection special. We'll have great giveaways, be offering advice for how you can win some money using their currently 51 24/7 self-service kiosks, soon to be 63 24/7 self-service kiosks. We will chat with Rodney Elliot about that, about the Maryland search, about all things college hoops coming up a little bit later on as well. And then I'm going to spend some time in the 11 a.m. hour. I haven't really spent any time talking about anything the Ravens have done yet this week. Of course, we know Alejandro Villanueva, he's retiring, probably for the best. Tavon Young has been cut. I guess there's a possibility he could end up back with the Ravens at a lesser number, but we'll see how that plays out. Will they go after Bobby Wagner? Will they go after, Trent Brown was the newest name that was thrown at me. Sure, maybe. I mean, I get it. What the Ravens do is they sign players that are cut by other teams. So anytime a player is cut by another team, I could certainly understand why it is that you would talk about the idea of them becoming a Baltimore Raven. I can completely get that. So we'll deal with that later on in the program. Bummer for Navy last night, as local teams still coming up just a bit short in their conference tournaments. Navy reached the championship game and had a stirring comeback in the second half, turned a 19-point game into a 2-possession game. Unfortunately, that's where it ended, and Colgate was able to hold out and get a victory in the Patriot League title game. So Navy comes up just one game short of the NCAA tournament, which is a bummer. Hell of an effort, really a hell of an effort in the second half to get back into the game on the road in front of a wild atmosphere at Colgate, but ultimately not quite enough. The good news was elsewhere in local hoops is not only did UMBC win the America East semifinals last night, so now they will be in the championship game on Saturday. Of course, the bad news is they've got to go to Vermont, and Vermont is overwhelming. I mean, Vermont is by far the best team in the America East, and that is a brutally difficult place to play. Of course, we all remember that UMBC was able to do it 4 years ago, going up on the road and beating a very difficult Vermont team. Could they replicate it? Who knows? Who knows? I wouldn't, if I'm a betting man, probably wouldn't be betting on it. But, it's one basketball game, and you just never know what's going to happen. So we'll see how that plays out. And then also locally last night, Coppin State advances in the MEAC tournament, pulling off a bit of an upset, knocking off the 2 seed in the MEAC tournament. Howard with once again at the buzzer, Nenda Tark hitting the game-winning shot as time expires. It's like his 4th buzzer beater this season. So they advance to Friday and the semifinals. They will await. They also get the advantage of a day of rest ahead of that because the MEAC tries to stack it so that the higher seeds get that advantage, but because they knocked off the 2 seed, they get to take that advantage for themselves, and they'll be playing in the semifinals on Friday. So that gets you caught up on what's going on in the world of local hoops. Now, this man, getting ready for the NFL draft, had a great weekend out at the Combine, was turning heads. He played collegiately at Maryland before he ended up at Ole Miss, and if you go back even further than that, he's one of ours. He's from here. He's a Calvert Hall alum. He was a kid that grew up in this area, and you never know. Maybe he ends up back here with the Baltimore Ravens. It's a pleasure to welcome back into the program Chance Campbell, who joins us now here on GCR. Chance, it's Glenn and Paul in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. Hey, give me the experience. I'm sure you talk to tons of people and you try to imagine what it would be like. But being out there in Indianapolis and being able to show off your skills and performing really, really well in the process, take me through what it was like and how it lived up to like what you imagined the Combine experience was going to be like.
Yeah, it's a really neat experience, and it's cool because I've been watching it since I was little. So you kind of formulate these ideas of what it'll be like. And then some things are similar, some things are different, but it's cool to get out there and kind of sort all that out for yourself as you're going through it. It's a little bit surreal, but it's definitely a fun experience and definitely some cool memories I had tucked away.
Was there anybody in particular that like you got to meet or you got advice from or anything like that that stood out to you, or just something that you didn't expect from that trip that ended up kind of being a highlight for you?
Yeah, I think there's kind of a collective message from a lot of guys who had been there and been at the Combine many years, and it was that you only get to do this once. And so you kind of look at it as this big interview, and there's a lot of stress, and you have some nerves and maybe a little bit of anxiety, but you hopefully get to play a lot of football games, but you only really get to do the Combine once, and it is a pretty neat experience. So to try to step back and take some of that in and enjoy it as it comes. That was advice that I had that I really liked.
I would assume that you're feeling pretty good about the work that you did out there.
Yeah, no, I think it's good to put some of those things down. I think I think people might not have thought that I was very athletic, so I think it's good to get some of those numbers down and then kind of work to keep putting some good ones down as my pro day comes up.
So I saw that you were doing something that was pretty cool in relation to your trip to the Combine and trying to raise some money. I don't know if it's something that people could still help out with, but can you tell me a little bit about what this was that you were doing for rare diseases?
Yeah, so it's part of this group, Uplifting Athletes, and then so it's this thing they do every year called Reps for Rare Diseases, which is really neat. So you just kind of take one aspect of your combine or your pro day. So you take a bench, a vert, or a broad jump, and then you send it out there and hopefully get some people to donate. And they can either donate a set amount, like fixed amount, or per inches or per reps for your bench, and then hopefully just raise some money for a pretty neat cause.
It looks like you raised $9,000, man. That's a pretty significant number.
Yeah, I was really pumped about that. I was happy with the weekend, but that was a number I was really happy with because I had some people reach out to me and share some stories that I would have never known. And it makes you happy when you can help other people.
That's awesome, man. Can people still donate if we retweet this link? Can people still get in post? Now knowing exactly what it is that you did, can they still donate that way?
I believe so. I'll reach out, and then even if they can't, they can reopen the link. So I'm certain that even if that one's not active, that it'll take you to another one, but I'm pretty sure that you can.
All right, well, we will right now. We'll retweet it for people to go find out more about what Chance did and what uplifting athletes is all about. But that's awesome, man. Good on you for doing something like that, bro.
I appreciate it.
I can only imagine all the stress that you got going on. You said this once-in-a-lifetime event. You're like, yeah, but while I'm at it, I'm just going to try to do something for somebody else. That's incredible. That's a really incredible thing for you to be doing.
Well, it's cool. I mean, like, you realize, I don't know, you can be stressed, or this is like a big thing, but there are people out there fighting harder battles. So it kind of puts things in perspective, much as that helped out, I hope it helps out other people. It definitely helped me out a lot.
Incredibly well said. Incredibly well said, man. Hey, Chance, the experience that you got, in going down to Ole Miss for a little bit and wrapping up your collegiate career there, can you give me an idea of what that has done for you from where you were when you were here to now, to have you, better prepared, more prepared, however you can say it, for getting ready for your NFL career?
Yeah, I think it was a really good kind of test run. I think Ole Miss was fantastic for me. Had amazing time there playing football and getting to meet some really cool people. But the actual dynamic of the transfer is something I think it's similar and helps set me up well for going to the next level. I lived in Maryland my entire life, so going away to a new town, kind of living off by yourself and being around new people and having to kind of reestablish yourself, those are all things that I'm going to have to do at the next level. So I got a pretty good test run, and I think that set me up pretty well.
The level of competition, I imagine, was probably pretty helpful too, right?
Yeah, no doubt. And I think it's funny because I'm still like a Maryland guy, and I think a lot about the Big Ten. So the Big Ten SEC comparison. I mean, there's some definite differences, but I mean those are two really really good conferences. So there were some changes, but it wasn't crazy. There's definitely some stuff there, but nothing too stark.
I guess for like the bulk of your career now, you're talking to an NFL team about getting ready for the next level. I mean, what more could you have possibly done? You've played everywhere, right? You've had to play Michigan and Ohio State and Alabama. Like you played. My God, how could you not be ready for whatever the next level is at this point?
Yeah, it's a fun thing to share because I've played in some pretty hostile environments. We had just like you said, Penn State, 107. You go to the shoe, go to the big house, but then played at Ole Miss this year where we kind of had a funny fiasco there at Tennessee. So
God, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so it's crazy stuff that I think sets you up well because that takes some of the environmental pressure out because you're kind of used to it.
Can I ask, did anybody attempt to keep the mustard bottle as like a souvenir from that night? Like, did anybody at all attempt to grab that and say, this is kind of a part of college football history, I might want to have that?
I'm sure someone did. I know people definitely held on to the joke for a while. There's a lot of mustard bottles that got sent to the Manning Center, like our facility at Ole Miss. So that was pretty funny.
I mean, I guess if you're making like a Cuban sandwich, it's nice to have a little extra mustard lying around at some point.
Not a bad deal.
Oh, that was a wild night, man. What a weird scenario that was. Chance Campbell is with us here on GCR. Chance, how did your game grow, over this last year, getting away from Maryland? What is it that maybe, the player that, and by the way, we already knew you as a really well, all-around type of linebacker, but how do you think your game specifically might have grown even another level beyond that over the course of the last season?
Yeah, I think that my understanding of offenses and kind of how to structure a defense to keep an offense from attacking you, I think that grew a lot. It was my fourth defensive system going to Ole Miss, so I have, I thought I had seen it all, and then we played this kind of a crazy front. It was 3-2-6 where we have, wide defensive ends and you're pretty open in the box. So I came from my junior season where I was pretty heavily protected with 4 down linemen. You kind of scrape freely to where you really have to deal with a lot of blockers and a lot of confusion, a lot of garbage there in the box. So I think it's become more of a well-versed backer who can play in a variety of different situations. And then I think, from a leadership standpoint, I got there in Ole Miss in June. When you're the mic and you're kind of calling the defense and you're running the show a little bit, you got to earn the respect of the guys there. So kind of learn how to do that in short order. I think that's something that will serve me well.
No doubt. I think that's huge. I know the answer is whatever it is that a team asks me to do, but do you think that there is an ideal way for you to be used at the next level? Do you feel like you've settled in, this is my biggest strength is definitely this, and I hope that's how a team chooses to use me at the next level?
Yeah, I think kind of what you said is probably the answer I'm going to give, which is like not the fun one, but I really do think that I can mold my game to serve whatever a team needs. I think that I have things right now that I can bring. I think I can run sideline to sideline. I can make plays behind the line of scrimmage, so like being in the center of a defense where I can, where I'm free to get to that ball and where I can kind of be a field general and set things. I think that's something that right now I'd be ready to do, and I'm excited. And I think I could do well, but I also think that I've learned a lot about myself as a player. I had to go to Ole Miss and do things that I didn't think that, I wouldn't have said were strengths initially, but I think they ended up being strengths. I think that whatever a team is going to ask me to do, I'm confident that I'll be able to figure it out and do it at a high level.
You have been through an awful lot, right? During your time, we go through, obviously, when you arrived at Maryland, there was tragedy, and then there was drama, and go different coaches, you end up transferring and ending up a different place. How did all of these things, everything that you've experienced, how much do you think that has sharpened you for being ready to make this jump to the NFL?
Yeah, I think it's been difficult, no doubt, but I think it definitely helped set me up, because the turmoil and some of the changing, moving parts that I've experienced here, from my limited view and experience of the NFL, I think it's fairly similar. I think we saw some craziness shake up yesterday, and there's a bit of a coaching carousel in the NFL as well. So
yeah,
being ready to handle anything at any moment, I think, is important. And I definitely had some practice at it, and I've gotten better. I didn't handle it as well when I was younger that I did as I got older. There was some growth there, but I think set me up well to understand that those are things that happen and how to best respond.
Do you still find yourself representing Maryland? I guess this is Chance. What's the relationship like with you and Maryland? I know this is, I talked to Mike Loxley about this a few times, and this is part of the sport now. Like, this is the way that it works. Are there hard feelings? Is it still a special? You graduated from Maryland. Do you find yourself saying, "Hey, I'm a Maryland guy as much as I am an Ole Miss guy"?
Yeah, no, never hard feelings. I think the university gave me a ton, and I hope that I gave them some. Like you said, I graduated. I lived my whole life in Maryland, so Maryland's definitely a part of me. But I also found a home in Ole Miss.
Yep.
I think I couldn't have wished that I got treated any better there. That was really like a dream experience. So it's cool to kind of be able to call two places home. I think that's pretty neat and rare.
Have you imagined at all? Like, do you allow your mind? I get it. You're going to be excited wherever it ends up being. You're about to become an NFL player. That matters. But have you allowed your mind to wander into the idea of you being able to come back this way? And obviously, I know there's a team down in Washington, but of course we're more interested in the one up here. And I don't know if you've heard, they've had some pretty good linebackers up here over the years. Do you allow your mind to wander and think about that at all?
I try not to, because inevitably when I do that, it starts to wobble into where else might work? Or,
right.
Who sees me here? And I think one thing that I've found, and kind of we talked about, with so much change and turmoil and things like that happening, is the more that you can control kind of where your feet are, the happier you'll be. So when you start to kind of wish for too many things, that would be a dream if I could be, at home. That's cool, but it'll be a dream if I could go anywhere and play in the league, because that's my biggest dream of all. So I just try to kind of focus on what I can control, and generally that works out for me, I think.
You still have you gotten over the fact that Loyola ripped one away from Calvert Hall on Thanksgiving at the end of the game yet? Have you forgiven those guys yet?
No, not at all. I saw that when I was trying to get the game, because I was obviously down in Mississippi. I was we were in the hotel, because we played on Thanksgiving too, and I was watching it, and I couldn't get the live game, but I could get some updates. I was like, no way! I was watching them go score for score. So, but I think those guys at Calvert Hall won an MIAA championship, so they definitely brought home some good hardware, and I'm sure they'll get it right next year.
I have no doubt that that's true. Chance Campbell, man, we're so excited for you. It was so incredible to watch, what it is that you're able to do. And, by the way, and we're still counting you as a Maryland guy. Let's make that abundantly clear, right? Because, Nick and Chig also had huge weekends. We were like, dude, all the Maryland guys killed it at the combine. So we're counting you forever. Social media, where can folks around here be giving you a follow on social media? Twitter, Instagram, anything like that?
Yeah, Twitter and Instagram are both the same. It's just CCAM42.
CCAM42 is how you give them a follow. Would it be awkward for anybody in your family? Like, are your family diehard Ravens fans, or I don't, Elliott City's always tough. There might be some Washington fans in that. Were anybody in your family be particularly troubled by you putting on a Steelers jersey if it ends up working out that way?
Probably my sister. We were big Ravens fans when we were little.
Okay.
I watched a lot of NFL when I was younger, more college as I got older. But my sister still loves watching all the games, and she still wears, Purple Friday and does the whole deal there.
So that might be tricky for her. Yeah.
That one.
Right. Hey, you can come to the games, but you can't wear a Lamar Jackson jersey. It's just not going to work that way. You have to.
We'd have to ground rules.
Yeah, right. That would be the way it would have to go. Chance, man, best of luck to you. We can't wait. We'd love to catch up again as we get towards the draft. Congratulations on everything that you've accomplished to this point in your career, man, and can't wait to see what's next. Of course, please, if it does end up being Pittsburgh, don't be offended by anything we say about you on Twitter. We promise we don't actually mean it, all right? Don't take it personally, okay?
No worries there. Thank you so much for having me on.
Really appreciate it, Chance. Chance Campbell, former Maryland and Calvert Hall linebacker, of course, who finished up his career at Ole Miss, joining us here on GCR. Appreciate him taking the time for us. Chance Campbell checking in with us here on the show. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends at your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Make the most out of every day in a Toyota RAV4, available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today. Appreciate Chance Campbell taking a couple of minutes for us this morning here on GCR. I'm going to get into some of your Paul and Ovielando brought up Trent Brown. I think I cut Jawan James to bring in one of these offensive tackles, seeing as how they don't affect comp pick formula. I hear you. You know, the answer, the response back would be, why did you sign Jawan James? I mean, you knew he wasn't going to play last year. If you weren't holding out for this year, I mean, that would be the response back. You know, where are you with him? Do you feel like he's capable, ready to play? These are all questions that I just don't know enough about in order to have a level of confidence in. But I guess my answer would be, sure, you can't really have, given the question of Ronnie Stanley at the moment, you can't really have too much help offensive line-wise. It's just a question of numbers. Do you have the numbers? You know, Paul's point, does cutting Jawan James, would that be necessary in order to sign a player like this and still do whatever else that you're looking to do in free agency? Possible. I don't feel, it's such an unknown when it comes to Jawan James. It's such a wild unknown as to what you have. The guy was a heck of a player at one point. Can he be today? I don't know. But you took the risk on him. You paid him. You held him around. They certainly should have a better feeling of where he is at this moment and whether or not he could help next season. All right. This guy has been helping for a few seasons here in Baltimore, as we've gotten to really enjoy him in his roles both on radio and TV and calling Orioles games. And now he's making a bit of a transition, as this season he is going to be, I guess, provided there is a season, knock on wood, he's going to be the new primary TV play-by-play voice on Masson for the Baltimore Orioles. He is Orioles play-by-play voice Kevin Brown, and he's with us now here on GCR. Kevin, it's Glenn and Paul. It's great to catch up. Thank you for taking the time for us, and congratulations, man, on the new gig.
Hey, good morning, guys, and thank you so much.
Kevin, you arrived here a few years ago, right? Did you know then that Baltimore was a place that you were going to want to be for a while? Or were you thinking more like, hey, it's a good job right now, you know, I need a good job and keep moving up? What was your thought process when you got this gig a couple years back?
I'm a very in the moment, one day at a time, coach speak cliche person.
Sure.
So honestly, it was more of the latter. My wife and I have a great marriage because I'm the one that will say, what are we doing for lunch in an hour? And she's the one that will say, what are we doing for our kids' Christmas in 5 years? And I'll say, we don't have kids. And she'll say, I know, but you need to be prepared.
Yeah, be ready, right. Yeah, think it out.
I'll say, you're right. But
right.
Also, would you like turkey or chicken for lunch? So, yeah, genuinely, the job came up in 2019. And I was really happy to just be doing Major League Baseball and to be doing it in a place that was close to my home at the time, and to be doing it for a team that had such an amazing legacy of people in the broadcast booth, honestly. You know, like you take these jobs and obviously you hope they're going to turn into things, but I didn't know, and I didn't presume to know what was going to happen. And I mean, it's a thrill. It's gone. I don't want to say about as well as it can go because we had a pandemic in the middle of it.
Right.
So, like, that's been hard. But professionally speaking, yeah, I mean, I'm just thrilled. I didn't know it was going to end up here necessarily 3 years ago. When I got the job, I was like, great, I get to call Major League Baseball. Whatever happens from there.
Sure, right. If it
we'll see. We'll see.
If it's the Astros next year, all good, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
You just want to keep doing that. I understand. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Kevin, we had you on the bat around about a year or so ago, and we were asking if there were plans for you to become a full-time broadcaster, and you said that you would prefer to just do it part-time and still work on your basketball broadcasting. What changed in that time span?
Well, actually nothing, because I'm still with ESPN. So I am. I guess what's changed is my Orioles package is going up. Obviously, in a full season, I would have done about 40 more games this year. To be honest with you, it is a lot of work and it's a lot of games. And in a year where there's not a lockout, it's going to be about 200, maybe more, 205 events a year. That's kind of crazy when you factor in travel. At the same time, a lot of people have jobs that are way, way harder than this. And so my perspective on this is like, oh, poor me. I have to travel a lot to call sporting events.
Real tough life. Yeah, right.
Yeah. And look, I don't want to be away from home all the time. I do want to have a life, obviously. Like, my wife and I don't have kids at the moment, so I can do it. And I'm fortunate in that respect. But I don't think I want to do 200 events a year forever. But when you have the opportunity to keep doing high-level work at ESPN and to be a TV voice of a team, is a no-brainer. The Orioles have treated me really well. They've been flexible with some ESPN stuff. I'm still going to be doing the softball World Series and postseason this year, which is really important to me. And ESPN has been flexible with Orioles stuff. So, again, I'm one day at a time here. What is it going to look like in 2 years? Am I still going to be doing 75 events at ESPN? I don't know. I have no idea.
Right.
Maybe not. But at the moment, it felt like this was something we could do for now, to do all this. And the chance to do all this was really, really special. And, look, if there's not a baseball season until May, I hope that's not the case, but if there's not, I'm happy I'm still with ESPN. I'm getting ready for a basketball game in a few hours here. Like, I'm keeping busy, and that's great. And ultimately, while I say I don't want to work this much necessarily, like I also kind of do. I do kind of love working this much.
I call it, and not at your level, but I do a ton of play-by-play around here, Kevin, and I talk about it. This is the time of year where there's like lacrosse and basketball still and all this going on, and somebody will say, "Oh, you're working, 5 games in 3 days," and I'll be like, "Yeah, I'm not really working, guys. Like, come on, man.
Sure.
Like, I'm calling a basketball game, for Christ's sakes. Like, like, trust me, it is real work, and I don't like I don't want to try to disrespect our profession, but like, I'm not digging ditches. Like, I think we can have context.
I try to keep that perspective. I mean, it is, it becomes hard personally when there's travel, and then there's the catch-22 of, well, now you're not traveling as much because people are doing stuff remotely.
Yep.
And like professionally, that sucks.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
So there is a catch-22 there, I suppose, but at the same time, you can't turn this opportunity down. It would be crazy to do that, and I am not that crazy, though I am crazy. I'm not that crazy.
He is Kevin Brown. He's with us here on GCR. He is the new primary TV play-by-play voice for the Baltimore Orioles. Kevin, was there a point, in these last couple years where it started to feel more like this was kind of home for you? Is there a moment that like clicked in where it became less of just the job that you have and more of a part of who you are and a foundation for your life?
Mm-hmm. I would say last year. Last year would have been the one. The first year, I did about 55 games or so, maybe 50 games in 2019, and that was the thrilled to be calling Major League Baseball, but still feel like a part-timer year.
Mm-hmm.
2020 was the pandemic year.
So
I
weird,
was
yeah.
like, I didn't, I came down for games and I wasn't even going to hotels. I just rented Airbnbs because I just didn't want to be around anybody and I didn't want to bring COVID to the ballpark. You know what I mean? So that was kind of a wash. And then last year, finally, my wife and I rented a place in the summer. We rented an apartment down in Locust Point, and we would still go back and forth to New York. And we just moved a couple of weeks ago down here full time. But we would go back and forth for games. But I was here for 90 games last year, so we got to explore Locust Point, get to know Fells Point, Fed Hill, and Canton, and the city a little bit. We haven't really done the suburbs that much. We kind of want to branch out, but started in the city first. But going to the farmers market, going to the Senator Theater, finding new places to eat, and having a couple of people come visit us at times. That was the summer where it started to feel more like home, and still a little bit more COVID in the world than like last year. But yeah, I would say last year, actually deciding to get a place that was just our own for the summer and not having to come down and stay at different hotels and Airbnbs, and having her with me. I mean, my wife and I started dating in 2014. I was doing minor league baseball. She would travel up like once or twice a month during the minor league season, and then we were together in the off seasons, but we had never actually spent a full baseball season together. So to have her down there, to have my dog down there last year, and then to get to know the city, that was really the summer where it clicked. And maybe I wouldn't be as comfortable, if I had just stayed at hotels last year, but
Wow.
I'm really glad we did that.
Wow. And I saw on Twitter you said you've moved down here now, and take me through how important was that to you, knowing this is a relationship, right? And I try to explain that to people. You welcome broadcasters into your home every night for the entirety of the summer. There's nothing.
Whether you want us or not.
Correct.
Yeah, there's no security system.
But Kevin, you know what I'm talking about. It's a little bit different than being a basketball play-by-play guy, or that you're spending so many nights with this person being a part of your life.
Sure.
It's a unique relationship. Was it important for you as you move into that role that you were here and that people could have more of a touch for you and you could be more a part of the community in that way?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I want to meet people again, like I want to be out in the world again and not just us hiding in our homes because of COVID, which I'm obviously we needed to do. But yeah, I want to be down here and actually be a part of the community. I don't want to feel like just a fly-by-night guy who comes in and does some games. You know what I mean? And that's why it was important to get a place and to feel like, all right, now we're going to establish ourselves here. Now we're going to actually be a part of this. And I hope I can get out and do some things in the community and not just be going back and forth to games. I like to get to be here in an off season.
Right.
And that's a really exciting proposition.
No, I think it's incredible. I think it's a really incredible thing for you to do, to say this is my home now, and I want to be a part of it, and I give you a lot of credit for that. Kevin Brown is with us here on GCR. Kevin, you referenced the sort of legacy of great broadcasters with the Orioles, and whether that's all the way back to Chuck or John Miller, Joe and Fred and Gary Thorne more recently. When you got here, did you want to attempt to emulate anyone? Did you emulate any of those guys beforehand? Did you purposely try not to do something like this? How did you attack this role, knowing what a legacy there has been of guys who have called games in this city?
I don't really ever try to consciously be somebody else. I think subconsciously I probably take stuff. I will hear myself make a call sometimes, and I'll go, "Oh, that's Ian Eagle," or "Oh, that's Joe Buck." But again, this is my head down, one day at a time deal. Like, I don't go into the booth and go, "All right, this is Joe Angel's booth," or "All right, this is Gary Thorne's booth." I get it. There have been a lot of incredible people here, but I don't really think about that. I don't walk into the booth and go, "Ooh, the ghosts of broadcasters past are in here." No, I just walk in and say, "All right, I'm here to call a game."
Yeah, sure.
And I'm confident that I know how to call a game. And I think if you try to emulate that person, you will fail. Now, maybe some people are upset that I'm not Gary Thorne. That's fine. Gary Thorne's a legend.
Right.
And they're allowed to be upset. I hope and I genuinely believe that whether it's in the next month, in the next year, in the next 3 years, in the next 8 years, in the next 20 years, whatever it is, like people someday will say, wow, Kevin Brown had a different style than Gary Thorne, but we still really loved his broadcasts. And hopefully people can say, all right, he's our guy, and feel comfortable identifying with me as the guy. If they can't right now, that's fine. I haven't done it yet. I haven't been here for that long. I've still been kind of a part-timer, but I don't know. I'm very comfortable and confident, without making it sound cocky, that I know how to do the job. I'm around people, more importantly, that really know how to do the job, and Jim and Ben and our production crew. And I think my style will work. By the way, I'm still figuring my style out. I have been doing this for a long time, but in the grand scheme of the universe, still not that long. I'm still learning things every day.
Sure.
So as long as people have a little bit of patience, I'm really confident people are going to enjoy the broadcast, whether it's cribbed from a certain person or not. But I can't come in here and say, I'm just going to do John Miller.
Right.
Because that would be wrong. And I hope that people will not come in after me and say, I'm just going to do Kevin Brown, because that would be wrong. We've all got our stuff.
There's two things that you said that jump in there. One, by the way, it does not suck to spend 3 hours hanging out talking baseball with Ben McDonald or Jim Palmer. Like you certainly have been blessed when it comes to analysts in that way.
Me? Come on.
My God. And then the other thing that jumps out at me is, like, it's so funny that you bring up Ian, who's a friend to all of us in this business. My God, is there a kinder human being than Ian Eagle?
No. Nor funnier, by the way.
Correct.
100% hit rate.
And I can't help it. Like, I think every third time I probably give him credit. Whenever a basketball gets stuck between a backboard and a rim, I don't know how you can do anything other than refer to it as a wedgie. Like, I just don't know.
That's right.
You have to do it. He has created something that the rest of us have no choice, and we have to acknowledge it's his, and he was the one. But there's just no possible better way to describe that phenomenon than the term that he came up with in order to say it. So I just have to acknowledge that I'm biting from Ian Eagle when I do it. But that is a wedgie. It's like an air ball is an air ball. That's a wedgie. That's what it is. There's nothing we can do about that. It's
nothing at all. Nothing at all. And I can't wait for a potential squeeze in a couple of weeks so we can hear Ian go, oh, a March wedgie.
Yes.
It's the best kind of wedgie.
Oh, it's my favorite. It is my favorite. There is no question about that.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely just stolen stuff. I have certain calls where the intonation of, there are just Ian phrases that are in my head. And I'll call it and I'll say, all right, that was Ian. And then you move on, because I don't want to just do 2 hours of Ian.
Sure.
He can get thrown in there. Mike Breen can get thrown in there.
Right.
Jason Benetti can get thrown in there. But it can't be that for 2 hours.
Yeah.
There are probably some people that think I do Joe Buck for 3 hours straight. And honestly, I love Joe Buck, but I don't intend to do anybody for 3 hours straight. And I think as it goes on, people will say, okay, he's his own person. He's got his different style. He takes this, he takes that, and that'll be that. Maybe I'll get my wedgie someday. Who knows?
I hope there is something. And with that in mind, obviously, and Kevin, you of course, it was such a wonderful thing, the Come at the King You Best Not Miss call. We saw the Ravens keep their tribute going all year long. Have you thought about that at all? Have you thought about bringing that back at some point? Or was it just too good in that moment that you kind of want to let it live there, that it was the right thing to do that night, and that's all that it ever needs to be?
I think it was the right thing to do that night. I think that's all it will ever be.
Yeah.
I adore The Wire. I think it might be the greatest work of narrative fiction of my lifetime, and that's television or radio or film or literature. I'm not just saying that as a Baltimore resident. I don't know how you can watch that show and
it's perfection.
not feel similarly.
Yes.
And it's just one of those things that came to me during the day. Hey, wouldn't it be cool if there was an appropriate moment, to have a little loving shout out to Michael K. Not Michael K., the Yankees broadcaster.
Right, Michael K. Williams, of course, yeah.
But Michael K. Williams. Yeah, it was right in the moment. I'm generally not a shticky guy, I'm sure I'll have my stuff. I'm sure there will be some calls that come back, but no, I don't think that's one I want to bring back. I think that landed in a good place.
It did,
and I think we can just leave it right there.
It landed in a really good place. It touched a lot of people. It was really well done, my friend. It was I think in a lot of ways. I mean, I think maybe it further ingratiated you in this community, the way that you touched in that moment. And I think
By the way,
really
sometimes you get lucky too. You know, this job is a lot of luck and good fortune.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Mountcastle it wasn't a guarantee he was going to clobber a ball that night, right?
Yeah, well, if the Orioles lose 8-0 that night.
Yeah.
And if they don't have a significant hit for the next couple of days, like 4 days after Michael K. Williams passed away, I'm probably not going to throw that call out there.
Of course,
the moment in which it had to live. I think there had been a home run earlier in the day too, and I didn't use it there. So yeah, sometimes you just get lucky with this stuff.
It really had to be a no-doubter, right? Like it really had to be one that off the bat you knew.
Had to be.
Exactly. It just doesn't work if it's a ball that happens to carry out and you don't know if it's going to be a shallow fly ball.
Had to be. You come at the king, you best not miss a 319-foot home run off the top of the wall.
Yeah, right.
What's going to happen?
Not going to work. Just not going to work as a call. Kevin, really happy for you, man. Really have been very impressed by the work that you've done since you arrived here in town and the way that you've lived up to that standard and that legacy that exists for broadcasters with this baseball team. Hopefully, it is not too long before we actually get to hear you call some baseball games, but I get it.
Hopefully.
That's beyond your control. At Kevin N. Brown on Twitter is how you follow him. And what's your basketball game? What are you doing this week?
I am in Fort Worth all week. I'll be working on the American Conference Tournament. Houston is the 1 seed, SMU, Memphis. SMU's very bubbly right now. Memphis is the hottest team in the league, one of the hottest teams in America. And then today we've got Cincinnati, East Carolina at 1, and Tulsa, Wichita State at 3:30. And then I'll have the first two quarterfinals tomorrow, and then the semis Saturday, and then the championship game Sunday.
Awesome.
This is my favorite time of the year. Conference tournaments into March Madness.
That's awesome, man.
It's the best. So I'm excited to sink my teeth into that and hang out in Texas and hopefully see some great basketball all week.
Enjoy some barbecue, Kevin. Appreciate you taking the time for us this morning. Let's do it again real soon, and congratulations again on becoming the full-time guy.
Very much appreciated. Thank you for all the kind words. It is very meaningful.
Kevin, thank you, sir. Kevin Brown, Orioles TV play-by-play voice, moving into the full-time role. And look, Kevin's been outstanding since he arrived. We'll just keep rolling right through. We'll get to the breaks when we get to them. We'll roll on. We can call Rodney. Oh, you need his number? That's fine. I can give you his number. Look, Kevin's done an outstanding job. He's just done an outstanding job. There is nothing like that. I don't have to qualify it in any way. He's been excellent. He has been very, very good at this.
Oh, he's phenomenal. The call on the Cedric Mullins home run, or Cedric Mullins home run robbery back in September was absolutely fantastic. Just the energy he brought to it.
No, he's been outstanding. So happy that he will be moving into that role. And as he pointed out, it's been difficult calling games remotely where he's had to do it. Hopefully that will be changing again, and he will be in person on the road in the years to come. We will see how that all plays out. All right. Today's show is also brought to you by Glory Days Grill. The St. Patrick's menu is available at Glory Days Grill. It includes the smoky thigh wings. The smoky thigh wings, which are perfection. And for the month of March, they're doing them in a Guinness grilling sauce. Plus, they got the Reuben. They got the Rachel. They've got all of the things that you love and crave around St. Patty's Day. Corned beef and cabbage, shepherd's pie with Guinness braised ground beef. It's all available at Glory Days Grill. Get your order in right now, glorydaysgrill.com, and take advantage of that delicious St. Patrick's Day menu. From Ryan. Ryan says, Glenn, I have really enjoyed Kevin Brown. Does this mean that Scott is no longer involved? I don't know the answer to that question. I don't think so. I'm going to guess that Scott will do.
He's moved to radio.
Yeah. Oh, is he going to be? So Jeff is. I did see Jeff is the primary radio guy. Scott will be doing games with Jeff on radio.
Yeah.
that's a lot of people have been critical of Scott. I've tried pointing out a million times it is very difficult to do games off a TV monitor, and particularly I think for someone who hasn't done a ton of games off a TV monitor, it's very difficult to do it. But I've been defensive of Scott over the last couple of years. He's Scott Garceau. If he hasn't earned the benefit of the doubt a little bit in this community, I don't know who does, frankly. I think that we can give him a pass. And I don't think it's been as bad as some of you have made it out to be. I get it. I'm not stupid. I've seen the same things that you've seen. I've seen some of the struggles that he's had. But, come on, man. This is Scott Garceau that we're talking about. And I am fine with him continuing to work in that capacity. And, even in a full-time job, there'll still be games that Kevin will miss. And they've got a crew. Brett's obviously still a part of that they can use. And Melanie is still there that they can use for calling games. So they'll have plenty of things plenty of people, capable people, to fill out their roster of broadcasters, but Kevin has certainly earned the opportunity to be the number one TV play-by-play voice. All right, Rodney Elliot is scheduled to join us here in just a minute. We will go ahead. We'll take a break and then hopefully chat with Rodney. We got a lot more to do here this morning. It is a Thursday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Sports betting has come to Maryland, and we're ready to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets with Glenn Clark and Paul Valley every Tuesday morning at 11:40. FanDuel Sportsbook GM Bruce Billick and VSiN's Aaron Oster join the guys every week to give you all of the info you need and even a few winners. So come win some money with us on Simply the Bets every Tuesday at 11:40 a.m. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. Watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline.
Glory Days Grill's St. Patrick's menu is now in full swing, and it's their most popular seasonal menu all year. New in 2022 are their smoky thigh wings with Guinness grilling sauce, a house-made Guinness barbecue sauce. Fan favorites also include their corned beef and cabbage, the shepherd's pie with Guinness braised ground beef, the Glory Days Reuben, and the Rachel. Enjoy a pint of Guinness or Guinness Baltimore Blonde. The St. Patrick's menu is available for the whole month of March. Come in for great food, cold beer, and basketball. Find out more about Glory Days Grill and get your order in online at glorydaysgrill.com.
It's another cold winter here in Baltimore, but this time there's no hot stove to warm you up. Hi, I'm Paul Valley, and while there may be no activity in the world of baseball, I'll still be here every week with my co-host Zach Goodman to give you all the latest in the CBA negotiations as teams look to get back on the field in time for spring training. You can watch us live every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or facebook.com/PressBoxSports and listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. So tune in every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon for the latest in baseball coverage right here on the Bat Around.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
We can't imagine why you'd want to, but you can watch GCR live. It's at facebook.com/PressBoxSports. And try to guess whether these guys are wearing any pants.
All right, back in here on GCR, and you've heard me talk about it. This Sunday, we are headed back to the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland down in Hanover. Going to be there from 3 to 7. We'll be hanging out, getting ready, and watching the Big Ten Championship game and trying to give you a little advice on how it is that you should be betting. And live betting is so much fun because you watch like a run in the game, and I don't know. Let's have fun, and let's say it's Maryland Rutgers in the championship game on Sunday. I don't feel great about that, but let's just say it, right? And Rutgers goes up 7-2, and you watch like the numbers, the lines change so drastically, and you're like, dude, it's only the first 3 minutes of the game. It's just a 7-2 run. It's not that big of a deal. So live betting is a ton of fun, and we're going to be giving you some advice during that Big Ten championship game, and then some of the prop bets surrounding the selection show. Then we'll take a look at the brackets from 3 to 7 on Sunday. And hanging out with me for this one is a man that I've been friends with for a very long time. Always appreciate opportunity to catch up with our buddy, former Terps and Dunbar star. He is Mr. Noodles himself, Rodney Elliot. He's back with us here on GCR. Rod, what's going on, pal? How are you?
Oh, good morning, Glenn. I'm great, man. Yourself?
Everything is good, my friend. I'm excited, looking forward to hanging out with you on Sunday. You know, who knows? Maybe there's some magical run that Maryland's got in them to the Big Ten title game. I ain't betting on that. I'm not doing that. But you never know. And then we'll get ready for Selection Sunday. Let me start here. Are you as invested on a day-to-day basis? Like, are you watching college games? Do you have a gut feel about who's got a great shot for winning the tournament and making a deep run? Are you invested in that way?
It's starting to pick up, you know. My birthday's in March, so I had an early birthday, March 4th. And March Madness is now. So we're talking tournament play. We're talking, kind of like a new season. You know, it's like the fourth quarter in the big season of things. So I am invested. I'm excited about March Madness. It kind of starts today now for me personally with Maryland playing Michigan State, and they just got to put together a couple good wins and get to the dance. So if they can do that, I'll be excited. But that would be a great year because you just never know who's going to get a W this year.
That would be very exciting, Rodney. I don't think I'm feeling particularly good about the chances of that happening. I think I've got to be realistic about it. Hey, with that in mind, something that I'm assuming you are invested in, of course, is Maryland's going to need to hire a coach here at the end of the year. As an alum, as someone from the area, as someone who cares so much about Maryland basketball and identifies or is identified with Maryland basketball, what matters to you during this process? Like, what matters to you that they are looking for in a coach? Do you have someone that you think is deserving of the job? Where are you with Maryland's coaching search right now?
Oh, man, you know what? I think they need to, it'll be great if they find someone that understands this area here, the DMV area. There's a lot of talent in this area as far as, high school players, but also understand this portal opportunity that's going on right now. I mean, you want to get guys in there that are hard workers, guys that can, understand what the coach wants. I think recently there was a bit of a disconnect sometimes. I'm watching from a former player's perspective when it came to decision-making in some of these games. I mean, we've had the talent in the past. We, had some key players go to the next level. But in some of those games, when we're talking about tournament play, Big Ten tournament, NCAA tournament, it seems like there was a disconnect in those crucial moments. So if we can find a coach that can be able to connect to the players and, get what they want out of situational basketball opportunities, I think that's the key. Getting people in the gym again as well, making Maryland basketball relevant again. I mean, I went to a couple games this year, and I saw way too many red seats for me. Mm-hmm. So, but to fill those seats up, you got to put wins on a win column.
No, there's no question about it. Rodney Elliot is with us here on GCR. And Rod, I feel like there's been a reason. There have been a percentage of Maryland fans who have said, well, that's why you have to hit a home run with the hire, because you need someone that's going to invigorate the fan base and get him back energized. And with a couple of names that have fallen off, Rick Pitino says it's not going to be him. Andy Enfield signs an extension at USC. There is this sort of reaction like, oh, we're going to end up being disappointed by the hire. And I'm in a weird place because, I don't think it's irrelevant what the reaction is from the fan base on day one. I get it. That matters. You only get one chance to make a hire and announce somebody and try to get some fanfare for that. But I keep coming back to, if they hire someone who's not Bruce Pearl and not Ed Cooley and not Kevin, not one of these top guys, if they go to the next level and they hire a Dennis Gates from Cleveland State, it's going to be a bummer to me that the reaction will be what it is, because all that really matters to me is this coach capable of winning. I sounded like I was from Baltimore there for a second, didn't I, Rodney? Coach. Is this coach capable of winning? Is he capable of getting the job done? And I'm almost terrified that there will be a negative reaction, and the hire will be judged on that day instead of being judged by like what the person actually accomplishes in the job.
Yeah, that's just the nature of college basketball. They want the glitz and glam as well as the wins, but when it all comes down to it, it's about the wins. I mean, the person they hire might not be the shiny coach everybody's looking for, but if whoever comes in gets a staff together that can recruit good players, that can play a style of basketball that that fits the talent that they have, as well as put fans in the seats. I mean, we're talking them being upset right now, but if we're in the tops of the Big Ten, and if we are having a good couple high seeds in the NCAA tournament going further, all that stuff is going to be out the window. So me, I'm not tripping off of who they may hire and what it may look like. I want to see what those practices look like.
Yeah.
I want to see what your style of play is going to look like. I want to see who you're recruiting, where you're getting these kids from. I want to see, are you bringing in JUCO guys? Are you bringing in guys that can, flat out get it done? So at the end of the day, winning is what matters.
No question.
I'm spoiled as a Maryland alumni, spoiled as a Maryland fan. Winning is the thing. It's not just, putting up, getting good guys and getting guys to the league, which is great. But, can you finish top in your conference? Can you get a decent seed and, advance in the NCAA tournament?
He is Rodney Elliot, and he's with us here on GCR. Again, we're going to be in the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel this Sunday from 3 to 7 for the Big Ten title game and for the selection show with some great giveaways, trying to help you guys win some money, throwing out some advice as far as betting is concerned. Rodney, we, of course, remember that you had an outstanding senior season at Maryland, and at some point during that season, there was this scrawny kid from Baltimore that showed up to start practicing with you guys in his redshirt year, and he went on to become a pretty decent player, and now he's a coach, and that's Juan Dixon. And there is this reaction that you get when somebody suggests Juan Dixon should be the coach at Maryland. They're like, you can't hire a coach from the MEAC to be the coach at Maryland, but this is Juan Dixon that we're talking about. What would your thought process be about Juan as a candidate to be the coach moving forward, knowing, certainly no one knows the program better, no one knows the area better, but obviously it's not like he has been able to go stockpile, plenty of winning seasons at high-level mid-majors or even at major conferences. What would your thought process be there?
When you talk about knowing the pulse of College Park and knowing the what it takes to win at a university like that, it's going to be hard for me to put anybody else ahead of a guy named Juan Dixon. I mean, come on, the record book speaks for itself. But I think his story in general, he wasn't a McDonald's All-American. He was a Burger King kid.
Yep.
Coming in,
Yeah, he might not even been that. He might have been like a Lou's Burger Joint guy or something like that.
You know what? I'm going to give him a chicken box. He's from Baltimore.
All right, yeah, right, correct. Yeah, exactly. Or some lake trout, right?
You know what I mean? But this guy flat out worked, though. He knew what it took. He was in the gym early. He was in the gym late. He was in the gym on the off days. I mean, he got better. He got stronger. And, the numbers as far as scoring is concerned, only national championship there. So when you put a guy in a situation like that back in his alma mater and with the resources that that University of Maryland has as far as the gym is concerned, as far as a great sponsor with Under Armour, I think, it'll be hard for a kid when him and his staff go into a kid's living room to say, why not come to Maryland, And you talking about style of play. I mean, he's played at every level that the kids that want to come in and play. He played in college, high level, 4 years. He got drafted. He played in the NBA for some time. So, he understands Maryland basketball, but he also understands the culture of these kids nowadays. They got a win last night at Coppin State. Granted, he hasn't had a lot of success there, but he's worked with what he had, right? And I go to the game. Well, I've been to a game or two, and I talk to him every now and then. And his mind, as far as basketball is concerned, he knows his X's and O's. He makes good decisions when it comes out of timeouts, things of that nature, strategically. And he's a basketball junkie. He lives it. He coaches his kids. So for me, I think Juan Dixon definitely could be a candidate. I think he definitely could have an opportunity to, be in line for the next coach at University of Maryland. And if that's a situation that comes up, he would definitely have my vote for sure.
Len Elmore brought something up to me a couple weeks back, Rodney. He said, since Juan, there hasn't been a Maryland alum even on staff at Maryland, since he left to take the Coppin job. And he's like, there's never someone on staff at Duke that isn't a Duke alum, right? Like, it's crazy.
Good God Almighty.
How important is it to you that even if, it's not Juan, even if it's not, a Maryland alum that gets the job, that there be representation of the alumni on the staff, that there is someone on the Maryland basketball staff that truly cares about and understands the program in that way?
Let me tell you, that's who that matters. Let me tell you who that matters to. That matters to that five-star kid that you're recruiting from this area particularly. That matters to that kid who is considering other universities across the country. But right here in your backyard, you mean to tell me you don't have, of all the Maryland greats, you don't have none that are on your staff?
Mm-hmm.
Or haven't had none that stayed on your staff? Two good friends of mine, really good friends of mine, brothers of mine, Keith Booth and Juan Dixon, were guys there that, had a role as far as coach is concerned, but, for whatever reason, didn't stick. So for me, I think it's important when you look around all the other universities who've had success in building a culture and continuing that culture and what they've done. They have done that. They've kept guys that played at the university and came back and coached and were able to, speak on the team's behalf, speak on the culture. When you're a head coach, you got so many things to do, so many responsibilities. But if you have guys on your staff that can continually spread the word and the culture of your university, that helps a lot. That helps a lot during the season, helps a lot during recruiting, and it helps as far as, keeping that energy there. And it helps with the fan base. I mean, don't get me wrong, we want to come see the players play too, but they want to come see the former coaches coach as well.
Dude,
So
I'm with you.
I hope all that's in consideration when it comes down to the next election.
And Rodney, obviously, the answer back to somebody will. I don't care. I just want them to all be good coaches, right? I don't care who they are. As long as you got a staff full of good coaches, I don't care who they are. But I think what you allude to is important, and it's something I just hadn't thought about much. Until Len brought it up. I do think that matters. I think you're right. I think you can. You need to point somebody out and say, look, we care about our guys here. You come here, you're going to have the opportunity to stay with us for a long time. And you want to get into coaching maybe after basketball. We hire our guys to come back and work here. Like, I think that matters.
That gives you guys on the team an extra incentive to keep going.
Right.
It's tough playing it. It's tough being a D1 athlete, tough being a college athlete with everything that's going on. And when you have those tough days, you need to, and you question why. Because I know for sure I questioned why when I was underneath Gary Williams years ago.
No doubt, right?
When we were going through the preseason training and, stuff like that. Like, why? Like, this is ridiculous. But when I got out there and that Duke versus Maryland or Maryland versus Carolina or we were on the road with Virginia, oh, man, I felt like I could conquer the world. That was because it was instilled in us that as long as we stick together, we're playing for the name on the front of the jersey instead of the back of the jersey. That is something that you can't mimic, and it helps when you have people that have been through that as well. That have been through that.
I completely get it. All right, Rodney Elliot, we're going to be in the sports book on Sunday, the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel.
Sweet.
So I'm going to run this by you. I'm starting to kind of regret. I got a little carried away last week when John Morant had that huge game against San Antonio where he hit that insane buzzer beater to end the half and had that monstrous posterized dunk. And I threw a few bucks on John Morant to be NBA MVP because it was sitting at about 14-1. It's already down all the way to 27-1 at this point because it's pretty clear John Morant's not going to be the MVP. But let me throw these out at you right now because you can still get plus money on Nikola Jokic to be the MVP. Joel Embiid remains the favorite right now at negative money at -125. But Jokic, I feel like, is sort of starting to assert himself. Should my backup plan to recoup a little bit of money to be throwing some cash towards Jokic at this point to be NBA MVP?
Yeah. Flat out do it. I mean, he's having a phenomenal season this year. He's been able to stay injury-free, major injury-free this year. Denver's been kind of under the radar with everything that's going on out in the West Coast, But as far as Jokic and what he brings to that team, thing about the MVP, he's going to get his touches. He's going to be there late in the game. He's going to be on the floor. He can shoot free throws. So, for me, if you're having a backup plan and you're going with Jokic, I think your money's in a good spot.
I'm really sad about the Morant thing. I felt so good about myself. I'm like, man, everybody's going to start talking about him, the entire country. And there's no doubt. There's no doubt. It just doesn't look like it's going to be enough time to be NBA MVP this season. And
you got to be good individually, but also got to be good as a team.
Yeah.
Memphis is good as a team, but they don't have that experience. They don't. I'm not sure where. I think at some point John's going to be asked to do too much, and then that may be too much for him.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm starting to pay attention to Cade Cunningham for Rookie of the Year as well too. Like he's really starting to figure things out a little bit. I just don't know if he's going to run out of time. He's sitting at 5-1 right now. Mobley is the overwhelming favorite at -550. So it sort of seems like there's a consensus there's not going to be enough time. But I've been impressed by Cade Cunningham the last couple of weeks. I think he is. Yeah. He's proven to be as legit as everybody thought he was in the draft.
I think he had a slow start, though. He had a slow start at the beginning of the year, then he kind of picked it up. But you mentioned, the kid in Cleveland has done really well. Cleveland itself has done really well. I mean, they no doubt. Stay right up there at the top of the East Coast. So, my money is on Cleveland guy as well.
Yeah, Evan Mobley, of course, being the overwhelming favorite right now for Rookie of the Year. All right, man, we're going to have some fun. Sunday, 3 to 7. We'll have some great giveaways. We will be offering some advice. We'll be watching the game, seeing how it unfolds. And Rodney will be sharing his thoughts with you and what trends. You're not like a big gambler, right? Like this is not your world that you're walking into. So you're more giving us the basketball perspective and how it fits into gambling on Sunday.
Right, exactly. Not a huge gambler. I mean, I may throw a little bit here and there, the slot machine, something like that. So I may bring my piggy bank for the slot machine.
You and I are gonna, we're gonna look at some bets on Sunday, and we're gonna decide together. And I'll put my money on it. That's fine. But we're gonna decide together a couple bets we want to make on Sunday between the Big Ten title game and the selection special. All right.
That'll work.
Sounds good. Rodney Elliot. It'll be this Sunday, 3 to 7, in the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. Looking forward to it, my friend. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning. We'll see you Sunday afternoon, all right?
No worries. Looking forward as well. See you later, Glenn.
It's Rodney Elliot, Noodles himself, Pride of Dunbar, former Terp. And, yeah, he'll be with us Sunday afternoon in the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel from 3 to 7. We will be hanging out with you watching the Big Ten title game and the selection show and trying to help you make some money. And then we'll just look over the brackets and share some thoughts about that as well. All right. We continue along on a Thursday edition of GCR. From Steve just follows up to say he wants Juan to be the next coach. I'm not there. I'm in a tough spot, right? It does. As I said yesterday, it's a huge bummer that it's not Andy Enfield to me because I thought that was the best they could do of the reasonable names. Of the legitimate candidates, I thought that was the best they could do. It ain't going to be Andy Enfield. I still think Kevin Willard is a fine candidate, but you can't ignore the fact that he's literally won one game ever in the NCAA tournament, and last night did his damnedest, not his damnedest, but they did their damnedest to try to lose to Georgetown in the first round of the Big East tournament. Of course, Georgetown officially clinches an utterly winless year against Big East opponents, which is almost impossible. Like, I just have no idea how that could happen, and I certainly have no idea how they can keep Patrick Ewing moving forward, but they said a couple weeks ago they were going to. We'll see if they follow up on that.
I like the idea of Juan Dixon coaching at Maryland. I think he brings a certain panache to your program. You probably don't have to pay him as much as you would have to pay somebody else, and I think he's a guy who can grow into the job. He certainly would be able to recruit in this area.
Yeah, I think it's really tough because there's the comparison to Patrick Ewing. There's the comparison to Chris Mullen that a lot of schools have attempted this in recent years where they hired an alum with either little coaching experience, little coaching success, in Patrick Ewing's case, no head coaching experience. He was an NBA assistant, but he at least it's not a completely unqualified hire. It's just not the way that these types of programs typically hire coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, when you are in a power conference, you hire a coach that has had success either at a mid-major or at a high major but a lesser basketball school. Obviously, Maryland found Mark Turgeon from Texas A&M, which is just never going to be conflated with a basketball school, but was in a power conference at the time. They were in the Big 12. Ultimately, they moved to the SEC. It's just not the way that you go about doing it when you're at one of these programs. And I think the difficulty is there isn't a sustained track record of these hires having success.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Penny Hardaway's having some success at Memphis, right?
Juwan Howard.
So Juwan Howard, you know, that's a tricky sell, you know, like
just don't go punching people in the face.
But you know, they've had a difficult season too. On top of they had a really good first season, and then this has been a difficult season, and it hasn't been proven yet that this is a good route to go.
Right.
Does that mean it can't be? Of course. And as I said all along, I think there has been a dismissiveness of Juan Dixon as a candidate that has been unfair. Juan Dixon is Juan Dixon. He deserves to be a part of this process, 1,000%. Now, is he more qualified than other candidates? You know, in certain areas, to what Rodney Elliot points out. As far as being someone who understands the area, yeah, he's definitely more qualified than Nico Medved at Colorado State. As far as being someone who understands the program, he's more qualified than anyone as a candidate is.
Now,
but as far as proving that he can sustain success as a college coach, no. You know, like there's a huge miss there. And as I said a million times, it's very, very, very difficult to win games at Coppin State. It's almost like we shouldn't measure a coach at Coppin State by traditional wins and losses, because part of your job, and I genuinely believe there are people that don't know this, in order to get your salary as the coach at Coppin State, you have to sell a certain number of games for big money. It's a different job than it is even at other low majors. Your job title is in part coach, and frankly, it's also salesman. In the same way that there are... I'm trying to give a good example. I will tell you, there are radio hosts whose primary job is really to be a salesperson. And then they also have to be a radio host on top of it. That exists in markets all throughout the country. Juan Dixon, in order to make his salary as the Coppin State head coach, has to agree to go play an S-ton of road games against power conference teams that will pay him and pay the school in order for them to have a budget, in order for them to operate other sports at Coppin State University. So you look at his record overall, and it's atrocious, but it misses that context. It misses the context. I'll pull up their schedule from this season. Coppin's basketball schedule this year alone. At Loyola Chicago, at DePaul, at UConn, at Virginia, at East Carolina, at St. Bonaventure, at George Washington. Now, there are some others in there that are closer to mid-major. You know, Ryder's a mid-major. Greensboro's a mid-major. They got to play a home game against Loyola, so they had that going for them, which was nice.
Do you think... and
Cornell's a higher mid-major, but very much a mid-major.
Obviously, we know how insane Maryland fans can be. But do you think that a guy like Juan Dixon, because he's Juan Dixon, gets a longer leash from the fan base?
No, I don't. And it's a very tricky thing. I think it'll be very split. If you hire Juan Dixon, I think it's a very split response. There's a group of people that say, look, it's Juan Dixon. Let's give him a shot, man. Come on. And there's a group of people that immediately say, this is I love Juan Dixon. This is not a hire that Maryland should be making. And that group will not be pacified until it's proven that you can coach. So they're not going away. They're not giving you more leniency just because you're Juan Dixon. Check out, again, what's going on. Georgetown won the Big East tournament a year ago. There's no leniency for Patrick Ewing there this year. There's no, but you're – and Patrick Ewing's a Hall of Famer. There's no – give him a chance. There's no they're infuriated. And I get it. It's a different. They literally have won 0 games in conference play. That's insane. I mean, that's bat-ass nuts.
Yeah, they've lost like 19 straight or something like that.
Unreal how bad it's been. But there's no leniency there because it's Patrick Ewing. If it ever gets that bad, no matter who the coach is, they kind of have to go. It's just the way you can't bottom out like that and continue to just be a coach at a power school. That's insane. But, I've said all along, I don't dismiss Juan Dixon as a candidate. I wouldn't hire him over some of the guys that have been thrown out there. But as I said before, if you get to the point where it's not Kevin Willard, and keep in mind, there's also a search firm that's involved with this, and who knows what they think of this job, because they're not as romantic about alums or guys who know the area or whatever it is. They have formulas they use to say this is the person that you should be hiring as your coach. And they also have their own relationships, frankly, with agents and things along those lines. The hire will ultimately be made by Damon Evans in concert with Dr. Pines, the school president. I have said before, I've heard a couple of names that I know they like that I think people aren't thinking about as top candidates for the job. Not that I'm comfortable enough to throw some of those names out there, and I'm just not. One of them is one that, I know has been on the radar, but lesser on the radar for the job. One of them not on the radar at all. No, I haven't heard anybody talk about him, but I've heard that that's a name that Damon Evans specifically likes. So I still think right now, if you made me bet, if there was a prop for this on the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino Hotel, I'd bet it was Kevin Willard. That was always the most practical name in the entire process. And then we can respond to that however we want. There will, of course, be people who will hammer the one NCAA tournament win ever thing. And then there'll be other people that would say, yeah, well, now he's going to a place where she'd be able to get better talent than he could get at Seton Hall, and that'll change that number. But I'd still bet that. If it's not Kevin Willard and you get into that next group of candidates, if you get into the Nico Medveds and the Mark Popes and the Dennis Gateses and the Ryan Odoms of the world, guys that are coming more from mid-majors, Mountain West being high mid-major, if you get into that conversation, I absolutely believe that there is a place within that conversation where you find Juan Dixon. Where that place is and does it become something they can do, I'll bet against it, but I think at some point in that conversation you talk about Juan Dixon, and he's deserved to be a part of the process. If you missed Stan the Fan and Ross Grimsley catching up with Tim Kirkjian on Monday night, you can find it right now at facebook.com/PressBoxSports or by going to PressBoxOnline.com/video. Stan's doing 2 shows for you every week, and encourage you to go check those out right now. When we come back in, we will talk about where the Ravens are after a couple moves yesterday. We'll get a tidbit, tubular to wrap up this show, and then Weekend at Bookies still to come this morning. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Sports fans, the wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. This is your chance to win big right in your own backyard. Bet on every sport with self-service kiosks and watch all of the action from the best seat in the house. Make every moment more at the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
The newest edition of PressBox is available now. On the cover, we celebrate the 20th anniversary of Maryland men's basketball's 2002 NCAA Tournament Championship, as Gary Williams reflects on how the program rose from the ashes of NCAA sanctions to the pinnacle of the sport, and why his perspective of the title run has changed now 2 decades later. Plus, Juan Dixon, Lonnie Baxter, and the rest of the team relive the moments that ultimately led them to cutting down the nets in Atlanta. PressBox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
The biggest pro wrestling stars today and all time all have one thing in common. You've heard them on Jobbing Out.
Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks.
Thanks for having us, man. Appreciate it.
The great Kurt Angle.
Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Matt Riddle.
Yeah, man. Thanks, man.
The champ, Drew McIntyre.
Oh, thank you for having me.
The great Ron Simmons.
Damn.
Keith Lee.
Appreciate you guys having me, man.
Bill Goldberg.
My pleasure.
Charlotte.
Thank you so much for having me.
Mick Foley is with us.
This is the greatest name for a wrestling show I've ever heard.
MJF.
I'm glad you're happy I'm on this show because I'm freaking miserable.
Le champion.
Chris Jericho.
Le champion.
AJ, Aaron, Brandon, and Glenn are talking pro wrestling every week on Jobbing Out. Find it at PressBoxOnline.com/radio, iTunes, and SoundCloud.
Stay tuned. Your chance to win $1 million is coming up. Probably not from us. You're listening to Glenn Clark Radio.
Paul says, just curious, for Terps head coaching candidates, how much do you think how these coaches do in the postseason will factor into the hiring, or Evans will have already made his decision? For example, Willard's team almost got bounced by a 6-25 team last night. And that's exactly what I was saying when we were talking about Willard, right? Like that. I still think right now that of the reasonable names, Kevin Willard is the best, most qualified, solid hire that Maryland can make. And because of that, the most likely hire that Maryland can make. But if they make that hire, the first thing that somebody's going to do is rush to Wikipedia and go through and say, all right, so he was at Iona for 3 years where he didn't make an NCAA tournament. He didn't make an NCAA tournament in his first 5 years at Seton Hall. Well, then he made 4 straight. Okay, well, that's good. Round of 64, round of 64, round of 32, round of He won 1 game. He won 1 NCAA tournament game. They didn't make the tournament last year. They'll probably make the tournament this year. I'm almost, but they damn near lost to Georgetown last night. Does it matter? Yeah, it matters. But at the same time, who are you hiring right now that's more qualified than that? That's the part we got to keep coming back to. We're almost trying to cheat the process. Maryland fans, a handful wanted Rick Pitino because they just wanted a guarantee. We want to know. This is the guarantee fairy from Tommy Boy. We don't want our daughter missing. We want to know that there's a guarantee that it's someone that can win a national championship. It doesn't work that way in hiring coaches. When Villanova hired Jay Wright, they had no clue that he was going to be Jay Wright. When Virginia hired Tony Bennett, they had no clue. A lot of people didn't know that Virginia could win a national championship literally until they did it because they thought the style would never work for winning a national championship. Remember, he just lost in the first round a year earlier to a 16 seed. We want to cheat the system. We want to know something we can't possibly know. We want to have a guarantee fairy. We did this game yesterday with Would You Rather Wednesday, and I brought up Tony Bennett, and all of a sudden, everybody's like, well, you have to have Tony Bennett because he's going to completely come in and make your program a winner year in and year out. Well, maybe, and I have reason to think that would be possible, but I don't know that either. As I said, I don't know that. I don't know that Tony Bennett immediately comes to Maryland and is just able to completely replicate everything he had at Virginia. I don't know that. I understand why you think that, but I don't know that. That's the difficulty in this. We're trying to hire an equation. We're trying to hire something that's a guarantee. And there's just no way of knowing that. I like Kevin Willard as a coach. I think he's done a good job at Seton Hall. I think it's a tough place to win. I think it's a tough place to get kids to come play. There's no football program there. There's no on-campus arena. It's a difficult thing to try to get kids to come to Seton Hall. Now, you can say you have the advantage of being close to New York, and so there's a recruiting base there, but there is no relationship between New York and Seton Hall where kids that grow up in New York say, that's where I want to go. That does not exist at all. Whatsoever. It does not exist. I think he's done a good job. He hasn't accomplished even as much as Mark Turgeon had accomplished in the NCAA tournament at the point at which Maryland hired Mark Turgeon. That's going to matter. Somebody's going to bring that up if they hire Kevin Willard. Do I think it means they can't hire Kevin Willard? No, because I just don't think that a coach that has made 5 Sweet 16s and a Final Four is available to come to Maryland. Frankly, it's why I thought Andy Enfield was the best option, because he had proven it to some extent. These are the candidates. That's who you got. You're going to have to figure out which one of them is most likely to be able to replicate success. That's why the interview process probably matters. It's why relationships matter. There's going to be a lot of trust put in the search firm. There's a lot of eye-rolling when you use the term search firm in college athletics. You know, let me be your search firm. I can figure this out. I know who the candidates are. I like Kevin Willard. I do. I think he's a good basketball coach. I can't guarantee that he'll be able to sustain success at the University of Maryland, but they got to hire somebody. They can't. We can't wake up tomorrow and suddenly Mark Few is the coach at Maryland. It's not going to work that way. It's not going to be Eric Musselman as much as we want it to be. I mean, it'd be amazing. I say it's not going to be. It's almost certainly not going to be Eric Musselman. People have brought up Shaka Smart. Shaka Smart just left Texas a year ago. I would be stunned for Shaka Smart to leave Marquette after 1 year. I'd be stunned by that. Is it impossible? No, it's not impossible, but it would just be very surprising for a coach to leave a place after 1 year. And I get it. You can argue, again, that Maryland is a better job than Marquette, and I think it is. But, boy, it's a tough – to be that guy, the guy that left the job 1 year later, that's a tough thing to do. That's a very difficult thing to do. Is it impossible? Of course. And I don't know Shaka Smart personally well enough to know the way that he thinks. Or even if, frankly, he'd be a guy that Maryland would want. I mean, it didn't really work for him at Texas. That was a disappointment. That was the hire of the century. The guy that everybody wanted was Shaka Smart. And he got to Texas and it just never clicked. He never succeeded at the way people assumed he would succeed when he got his first high major job. Just did not happen. All right, the Ravens, of course, yesterday, they find out that Alejandro Villanueva is retiring. Had he not retired, he wasn't going to be a Raven anyway. I mean, bless him. Seems like a solid person. Every time you talk to somebody in the locker room, the respect and the reverence they have for Alejandro Villanueva is remarkable. As Tyus Bowser and Patrick Queen explained to us, like, that's the dude that when he talks, everyone shuts up and listens. Because of the sacrifices he's made in his life, because of the person that he is, because of the various things that he's seen, he has that type of respect and appreciation from his teammates. And that's an incredible thing to say about someone. So, bully for Alejandro Villanueva, who we didn't like for a long time because of the team that he was playing for, and then we didn't like for the last year because the team that he was not playing well for. It's just the reality. We never really had a time to like Alejandro Villanueva in Baltimore. It clearly did not work. It was nonsensical from day one. This goes down as one of the all-time misses in Ravens history. There's kind of no way of getting around it. We don't need to harp on it much longer. But this is, I get it, it's 1 year. It didn't set the franchise back eternally. It's not drafting Kyle Bowler, but it's one of the great misses in Ravens history, which is the type of thing you can say when you haven't had a lot of overwhelming misses in your franchise's history. This goes down as one of them. The Tavon Young thing, weird, not because of the number, because I don't know yet what they want with Tavon Young. It's easy to say, hey, they should try to sign him back at a lesser number. He played well last year. He did. Tavon Young was helpful last year. The Tavon Young thing is frustrating because the original contract they gave him never made any sense. Obviously, he's been injury-plagued since that point, but, was healthy a year ago and contributed. So with that being the most recent track record that we have for Tavon Young and knowing you can't have enough good cornerbacks, I could definitely see a scenario where you want him back. But I would have presumed you would have gone to him with that first before you just released him. That you would have gone to him and said, hey, could we work on something in order to keep you around? And the fact that that didn't happen makes you think that either Tavon Young knows there's a market for him out there because, again, there are only so many good cornerbacks in the NFL, or the Ravens just don't really want him even at a cheaper number, have just sort of decided this isn't – we don't have even a couple of $1,000,000 to spend on Tavon Young right now. Too much of an injury risk. You feel like you don't need – your bigger need is outside corners than it is inside corners, and Tavon Young is most certainly not an outside corner for whatever reason. One of those two things seems to have to be true because there's almost no chance they didn't begin the conversation with, hey, we'd like to keep you around. Could we work on something that would get you here again next year at a lower number? And the fact that that's not what they did, and again, it doesn't preclude Tavon Young getting to the open market, finding out there's not really all that much of interest in him, and then coming back to the Ravens. That has happened, not just with free agents. That's happened with guys that have been released, where they say, let me dip my toes in, see how the waters are, and then we'll talk. But typically, given as much tampering as occurs in the NFL, typically that's taken care of now, and he knows exactly what's out there for him on the open market. So I'm reluctant to think that he's going to be back. I get it. It's not impossible that he ends up back. And all it takes is one team, missing on someone else that they wanted and then saying, well, now we got a few $1,000,000, we'll spend it on Tavon Young. Or one team that said we'd offer this amount of money to Tavon Young but didn't know somebody else was going to become available and says we'd rather spend that money on this player. Now all of a sudden Tavon Young is still sitting out there and could be an option for the Ravens. I'm not going to yell or scream about it either way.
With the release of Young and Westry, with Jimmy Smith and Anthony Aver being
Westry seems like one that's more likely to come back. Westry is a very unique circumstance because of the tender that you'd have to give him. You can't rework that number internally. You have to let him go. But that one's one where it's very unlikely to be a significant market for Chris Westry, and you can probably I would be less surprised by Westry returning than Young at this point.
So with the potential then for 4, but more likely 3 guys that could not be back next year, do you think it makes corner a more likely target in the draft this year for the Ravens in the first round, or do you think that they're still preferencing a tackle or an edge rusher?
I don't think they're going to go in. This always becomes
Best
a
player
problem.
available.
If you go in having one significant need, you end up with a Hayden Hurst problem on your hands, right? Like one of their all-time failures was that they didn't address tight end, and they kind of had no other choice but to have to draft a tight end early in that season. Now, again, it's not the end of the world. Hayden Hurst was fine during his time in Baltimore. A lot of people want Hayden Hurst back, and who knows, maybe he could end up back in Baltimore. But he was never someone that was worthy of being selected where he was selected in that draft. He was not that good of a player, and it was a huge miss. And you can compare it to Derwin James, who I know has had some injury issues, but Derwin James, when he's been on the field, has been absurdly special. You had the chance to take him, but you, at that point, were so desperate for a tight end. You needed a tight end so badly because you hadn't done anything that you had to take a tight end early. As it turns out, they took another one, and that one worked out quite well for them, the one they took later on in that draft. But it's a terrible place to be where you go into a draft having not addressed a particular position at all and having to come away with something at that position. Because either you end up forcing a pick or you don't get that, and then you're left doing what they had to do at tackle last year and signing Alejandro Villanueva, signing someone who wasn't qualified for the job after the draft was over. You got to figure it out now. Do I think it makes it more likely? I don't know. I think the quality of player is what makes it most likely.
Right.
That the argument from, the many, and we'll try to do another draft segment tomorrow, the many draft folks we've talked to has been that there's going to be quality cornerback waiting for them at 14. There will be, whether it's Stingley, whether it's Gardner, whoever it is, there's going to be a quality cornerback. Not all of them are going to go before 14. They're going to have that opportunity. Does that mean that's who they take? Is it guaranteed they like those players more than they like, say, a Jordan Davis? If they're just in love with the player, they're going to take that player when they get to 14. But the availability of cornerback and, knowing that what they went through a year ago, knowing that literally you can never have enough cornerbacks, sure, it wouldn't surprise me at all for their first pick to end up being a corner whatsoever. The Bobby Wagner thing, again, I get it. It's exciting to talk about every player that comes available. I have no idea. I couldn't possibly tell you if the Ravens will ultimately be in on Bobby Wagner or not, because I just don't really know what the market is for Bobby Wagner. While it's easy to portray him as a Ravens target because he's a player who was cut, I still don't know if it's somebody that they're spending a lot of money on. This is still someone who's deep into their career at this point. And if there's a real market out there, I love Bobby Wagner as a player. What's not to love, right? But, a lot of people loved Earl Thomas as a player a few years ago. I don't know. I'm not as sold as a lot of people are that Bobby Wagner at this point is worth really spending money on at this point.
Not when you have other needs.
Yeah, that's sort of, and I get it. Like, they got to figure out exactly what Patrick Queen is moving forward, and you can say inside linebacker is still a need for them on the whole. I have no problem with saying that, but not as pressing as other areas to me. That my priority is not necessarily inside linebacker. So, if you can do it on the cheap, sure. Let's do it. And, yeah, Brian, I saw this from Lock and Four. He's saying the Ravens are seeking to trade Miles Boykin. They can seek to trade him all they want. I don't know what you're getting for Miles Boykin. If you can
7th round,
if you can get somebody to give up a 7th round pick for you, God bless, by all means. That's not really news. They of course are going to seek to trade Miles Boykin, but that's because they're going to have to release Miles Boykin at some point, or presumably will have to release Miles Boykin. And we have to continue to say he is a very good blocker and has carved out a nice special teams role, but just lost in the depth chart as far as the wide receiver position is concerned. Tidbit of the day brought to you today by Underdog Fantasy Football. We love playing Underdog. There are so many great contests available between hockey and basketball and hopefully baseball at some point. You use the code PRESSBOX when you make your first deposit up to $100. We will match it with free money for you to play with. UnderdogFantasy.com or download the Underdog app in order to start playing.
All right, so on Wednesday night, Navy lost in the Patriot League Tournament final to Colgate 74-58. Colgate closed the game on a 14-4 run after Navy got the game to within 6 at 54-60. In the game, Colgate had 5 players score in double digits. It was the first game of the season, in their last game, that Navy allowed 5 players to score double-digit points against them in one game. In fact, Navy's defense had been so good this year that they actually had 3 games in which nobody scored double-digit points against them. For Navy, only 3 players this season averaged more than 8 points per game. Who were they?
Carter.
Yep, 13.4.
Summers.
8.9.
Is the third one Yoder?
No.
Nelson?
Tyler Nelson, 8.5. Yeah. Man, you knocked that one out of the park.
I mean, I only because I'm paying attention to Navy basketball of late. But yeah, look, it was a bummer. It was a bummer last night. It was a real bummer that, they battled. They battled like hell, man, on the road in a tough place. And when they got it back to a 6-point game late, I was like, holy crap. It was a 6-point game with like 7 minutes left after they had been down by 19. I was like, the momentum was all on their side. And then at a one timeout that Matt Langel took, Matt Langel's done an unbelievable job at Colgate. One timeout he took. From there, Colgate just reasserted themselves. Navy tried to go small, and Colgate's bigs just sort of wrecked that. It was a real bummer, but hell of a season, no doubt about that. If you haven't picked up the new print issue of PressBox, it's available right now at your neighborhood Royal Farms or any of the hundreds of locations where you find PressBox on the cover. That's Gary Williams. You've heard of him. We celebrate the 20th anniversary of Maryland's run to the 2002 National Championship. Go get it right now at your neighborhood Royal Farms or any of the hundreds of locations where you find Pressbox throughout town. Tonight, totally tubular, Maryland, Michigan State at 6:30 on Big Ten Network. The other Big Ten tournament games today, Indiana, Michigan, 11:30, Northwestern Iowa at 2, Penn State, Ohio State at 9, again, all on Big Ten Network. Coppin State's women's team in action at noon in the MEAC tournament on ESPN Plus against UMES. Then the Morgan women take on South Carolina State at 2. The Morgan men take on South Carolina State at 6 in the quarterfinals. Patriot League women's tournament tonight on ESPN Plus, Navy and Bucknell at 6. Mount St. Mary's lacrosse hosts Mercer today at 3 on NEC Front Row. As far as the NBA is concerned tonight, TNT Nets Sixers at 7:30, Warriors Nuggets at 10. ESPN Plus and Hulu for Golden Knights Sabres at 7, Wild Red Wings at 7, Ducks Predators at 8. Round 1 of the Players is underway. For some reason that says 8. It's actually noon. I will fix that on the Golf Channel. Indian Wells on the Tennis Channel starting at 2. That's all you need to know sports-wise. You can find the rest at glennclarkradio.com. Some non-sports highlights for the evening?
Jersey Shore Family Vacation at 8 o'clock on MTV. You have all the Law and Orders from 8 through 11 on NBC. Grey's Anatomy in its 47th season at 9 o'clock on ABC.
I said highlights.
What's that?
Grey's Anatomy. It doesn't qualify as a highlight.
There are very few highlights on Thursday night.
Then we can leave it and just say go find it at glennclarkradio.com. All right, thanks today to Rodney Elliot. Thanks also to Chance Campbell as well as Kevin Brown. We'll get all that up in the greatest hits section of the tab at glennclarkradio.com. We'll do a draft segment tomorrow. I think we'll try to catch up with Bo Smolka tomorrow and some stuff and things that we're working on as well for tomorrow's program. Thanks to everybody at Pressbox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Glory Days Grill, Royal Farms, Grade 8's memorabilia, live casino and hotel, Underdog Fantasy Football, Blue Line K9, your local Toyota dealer, and buyatoyota.com. Know the risks. Have a plan before you start gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org. Thanks to Paul. Follow him on Twitter, at Paul Valley III. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, at Glenn Clark Radio. I think that's all we got to cover for that. Yeah, have a great Thursday night. Go Terps. Go all the local men's and women's teams. Duke sucks. Ohio State sucks too. Now, if you are with us on video, give us 1 minute. We'll be back. If you're with us on audio, do nothing. We'll be right back with the